Woo! What's going on, guys? Orms Form coming at you guys today again, and today I'm going to come at you with another video. It's been a while since I've done a video, but I'm doing one. I'm going to be talking about the Matt Stafford versus Jared Goff debate. Will it ever end? Me personally, this is a 2-year window, just like I think the Jared Goff train in Detroit is a 2-year almost audition. I think it's kind of going to be like an audition here, and that's not a knock on Jared Goff or anything like that. I just think it's more of a 2-year audition. Now with the Matt Stafford and Goff debate, it gets dicey, it gets picky. There's people that love to talk it, people that just want to move on, but I think it's going to be a situation where it's going to be talked about for at least the next 2 years. Now, when you talk about these two guys, there's a ton of similarities between these two guys. Okay, both former number one picks, both quarterbacks, obviously. Both have similar styles of how they play the quarterback position. Goff is more of a short, intermediate route guy, likes to throw the short passes. He excels more at that game. I can't even really begin to tell you who is more mobile, more athletic, because both of them don't really have that to their game. Stafford's more of the strength with his arm. He can throw he can make the wow passes, the passes that make your jaw drop, and in a good way and in a bad way. Both have thrown a bunch of interceptions. Both have fumbled the ball. Both have done a lot of similar things. Now, I'm going to talk about the former quarterback here first. Didn't do much writing for this. Like, I could sit here and I could bore you with stats. Didn't really do that. Just going to kind of go with how I feel about this debate, because it's running rampant right now, and just deserved, because we had a guy here 12 years, Matt Stafford. Okay, he was here for 12 years. This would have been his 13th year. He was in a trade. Nobody really knows. I'm sure you guys know, but he was obviously in a trade. Our new regime, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, decided to trade him. Well, he wanted out. Matt Stafford wanted out, and he went to the organization, and it was a good, clean break. And we ended up dealing with the LA Rams. That's who formerly Brad Holmes used to work for. He worked under Les Snead, who's the GM over there in LA, and Brad Holmes did a lot of their assistant GM work. He did a lot of draft scouting. He did a lot of that. He actually, according to Les Snead, he took over a lot of the drafts the last 4 or 5 years. Kind of just like took over the wheel. Les Snead lost a good one, Brad Holmes, and we got a good one as a Detroit Lions organization. So Matt Stafford gets traded to the LA Rams for two future first round picks, a third that happened this April, an extra third, and a starting quarterback at the age of 26 named Jared Goff. Now, Matt Stafford in Detroit, Matt Stafford in Detroit made one Pro Bowl as an alternate, even though Pro Bowls, it's one of my biggest pet peeves. I can't even watch a Pro Bowl, to tell you the truth. I hope one day they just abolish that game. It is a popularity contest for the most part. Well, pretty much all of it. It's fan voting, and Stafford, I think, has been robbed a couple times. If you're going to say he belonged in a couple Pro Bowls, I guess he could have. Even though I think All Pros is the staple of how being an NFL player or any professional and sport, and All Pro is the best. All Pro is just NFL, but Pro Bowls mean nothing to me personally, just on a personal level. Okay, just on a personal level. A lot of people want to gauge how good someone is because of a Pro Bowl. Not this guy. I won't. All Pro in football is where it's at, because it's not fan voted. It's writer voted. players get involved and stuff like that. They got the top 100 with the players. So far, you know what I mean? Just like that. It's not a fan voting. It's not a popularity contest. An All-Pro. But Stafford has one as an alternate, one Pro Bowl as an alternate. Maybe should have been in a couple, but who cares? Whatever. Threw for tons and tons of yards in his career. Bunch of touchdowns. A lot of picks. A lot of fumbles. A lot of untimely picks. A lot of untimely fumbles. Could never get the team over the hump. But never had a team around him. Okay? Never really had a team around him. Yeah, he had Kelvin Johnson. He had guys like Nate Burleson. Marvin Jones came over. He turned Marvin Jones into a stud, even though Marvin Jones was doing well in Cincy. Golden Tate was just starting to click in Seattle. We ended up getting Golden Tate. He made Golden Tate a better player. And it's not just Matt Stafford making those guys good players. It's not just up to the quarterback. I'm just saying they were better as Detroit Lions. Kenny Golladay, 3rd round pick by Bob Quinn. He was awesome. You know, suffered some injuries, whatever. So Stafford had the wide receivers, had the wideouts. Never really had a defense except for 1 year, 2013, 2014, whatever year it was. Never had a run game. Even when the run game was decent with Reggie Bush and Joique Bell, where I think Bush barely ran over 1,000 and Joique Bell had like 500, so it's 1,500 combined. They were still ranked like 17th. So never had a running game. Never really had a running game. Nothing scary anyways. One good defense. Great defense. It was a top 3 defense with Sue. You had Hansa over there. DeAndre Levy, Tulloch. Those type of players. You had some good players. That Darius Slay was another one of them. A good defense. A team that probably should have done better. And Matt Stafford never took them over the hump. Now, it's not Matt Stafford's sole responsibility to be that guy and be the guy that takes him over the hump. I understand he's a number 1 pick, but and football's different. Football is a totally different sport. It's not like people will say, well, he's a number 1 pick, he touches the ball the most. He should be taking them over the hump no matter what. That's not the way it works in football. That's not the way it works in football. You have to have an even keel. Yeah, you can have like a completely dominant defense and have your offense maybe a little bit mediocre. But it's got to be pretty much straight level. For me anyways. It's not like hockey where a goalie can come in and literally take over a game, take over a series. We just saw it in Montreal with my Montreal Canadiens. Carey Price came in at the right time, didn't even have a good regular season. Came in, shut the door. We made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. We got beat because Price ran out of gas. And Tampa Bay is just a phenomenal hockey team, and they just beat us up. But it's not like baseball, where a pitcher can come in and throw 9 scoreless innings of pure domination, and then the team can get maybe 4 or 5 timely hits and win a game 1-0, 2-0. It's not like that. Everyone has to be on page in football to win games, and especially to win championships. It's just the way it is. And Matt Stafford never had that. It was always asked, he needed to be number 1. He had to be the guy. He had to be the guy. There was just no dancing around it. Brought over some guys to help. It just never panned out. Defenses never panned out. The running attack never panned out here. Never did. So Matt Stafford finally asked if he could go after 12 years gone. And in exchange, we get Jared Goff. Now with Matt Stafford, he did a lot of amazing things for the Lions, even though a lot of people do not want to admit it. And I get it, and I do understand it. But I'm a pro Stafford guy. I've always been a pro Stafford guy. He did a lot of great things for that team. He tried to put this team literally on his back and broke it like twice. Can't do it all by yourself in the game of football. even the greats like Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, they didn't do it by themselves. It's a fallacy. If you actually think that happened, you have to go watch those games and learn the game of football. You have to. So with Stafford, and I'm not saying it's not all his. He doesn't shoulder any of the blame, because he does. He needs to take some of the blame. 100% he does. He needs to take some of the blame, and he should, and I'm sure he does. And I'm not saying Stafford doesn't deserve any of it, because he does. But he didn't deserve all of it. And there's people out there that just rip him apart. I kind of get it. I get it, understand it, but you have to understand how it works. It's just not that easy. And then you get Jared Goff, 26-year-old kid out of California, the golden boy, the blonde hair, the blue eyes. He's got it all. He's tall. He's got the arm. The quarterback, #1 pick. Played on a LA Rams team. Got drafted on a bad LA Rams team with Jeff Fisher. That was quickly dismantled after a year or so with him, I think. Sean McVay came in, brought in a beautiful system, drafted a running back, ended up getting Aaron Donald in the draft. Just having an all-around great organization to pair up with his services. Now, the LA Rams were a little bit of a train wreck at first, like I said. So when you get the Rams, and then you get Jared Goff, you get the quarterback, you think your team's going to be good. They did some things. They ran the ball extremely well. They started playing lights out defense with Aaron Donald. They started building pieces around him. Pieces started coming together. They had a great O-line for most of the part. 2019 is when they had a really bad O-line in LA. Had a lot of injuries. Whitworth, I think, went down, almost retired. Now he came back last year. Last year it was a top 3 O-line. It's been pretty much a really good O-line with Jared Goff. Some solid weapons. Cooper Kupp, they brought over Robert Woods from Buffalo. Drafted Cooper Kupp. Drafted a couple nice tight ends. Defense, like I said, lights out. Playing good. Even in 2018 when they were rated like the 23rd rated defense, they still were really well in a lot of subjects, like a lot of the categories. Like takeaways, they were top 5. They just played a really good, solid unit as a football team. They played solid all around. They weren't asking Jared Goff to be the man. And no disrespect to Jared Goff, none. He is a good quarterback. I remember when this trade went down, I was livid. I was completely livid. I hated the trade. I was like, why are we doing this? He's had and then you go back and you look at Jared Goff's last 2 years. They haven't been overly disastrous. Last year he threw for 67% of his passes complete, which was nice. Somewhere in the 20s for his touchdown past couple years. His only problem is that he gives the ball away. He coughs it up, just like our former #9 quarterback did, Matt Stafford. Almost the same kind of deal. They cough the ball up. Stafford threw picks. Goff threw picks. Goff fumbled. Stafford fumbled. Goff has been a turnover machine though the last 2 or 3 years, to tell you the truth. But it's not all his fault. It's not. So we get him in this trade. I was very upset about it. I didn't like it from the start. I have learned to live with it now. I don't think he's going to be the Achilles heel of this team. I really don't think he's going to be the problem. You talk to any LA Rams fan, they're going to tell you it was all Jared Goff. About 80% of them. Most laid back fan base I've ever had discussions with, by the way, though. They are very laid back. They're cordial. They're nice. It's strange. It's like It's kind of refreshing. But you talk to them, 80% of them will blame Jared Goff. Of course, Jared Goff's a Detroit Lion now. He's out of the building. It's all his fault. You talk to any Lions fan, they blame Sean McVay. It's the total reverse effect. Well, it can't be our quarterback. It had to be the offensive genius, right? It had to be McVay. Had to be. We don't really know just yet. It's kind of a wait and see approach. But we got a quarterback and Jared Goff, that has been to a couple Pro Bowls, okay? Been to a couple Pro Bowls. Again, I'm not a big Pro Bowl guy, but he's been to a couple. He's had a couple really good years, 2018, 2017, 2018. Oh, wait, what was it? He was drafted in 2016, 2017, 18. Right in between there. It might have been 2018, 2019. I forget. In 2019, he had a really bad O-line. But he made back-to-back Pro Bowls, I believe. Threw for like 30-something touchdowns one year, a bunch of yards. Did it back-to-back. He also had a top-notch running back in Todd Gurley. But it's a guy that has been to the Pro Bowls a couple times. He has won a couple playoff games, been to a Super Bowl. And a lot of fans and a lot of people in general will just focus on that. They say, well, he's been to the playoffs and won. He's been to a Super Bowl. Got shredded, by the way, too, by the New England Patriots. Not shredded in points wise, but their New England's defense just beat up the LA Rams. I think they scored 3 points or something along that line. I forget 13-3 was that score of that Super Bowl. It was one of the worst Super Bowls ever known to man. The Patriots won another one. Tom Brady won another one. That just goes right there. They only put up 13 points. I don't even know who won the MVP, and that was probably Brady. It probably should have been somebody in the defensive side of the ball in New England. It was probably Brady who won it. That's how people treat quarterbacks. It's either they win it or it's the other team that just did a little bit better. Or it's the quarterback that lost it. It's never a team effort when it comes to football. I've never really understood that. I think engaging with wins and losses and putting that on quarterbacks and having that stat, it makes me cringe. I think it's one of the worst stats ever produced by sports media. Wins and losses for an NFL quarterback. I think it's extremely weak and extremely lazy way on how to gauge how good a quarterback is. And Stafford has a terrible record with that, especially against winning teams. It's all on Matt Stafford. Nobody else. It doesn't matter if your defense got gashed for 45 points and like 500 yards. Matt Stafford lost that game. I just think it makes my stomach turn when I see that stat. I think it's the worst stat in football. Worst stat in all of sports, pretty much. But the Jared Goff and Matt Stafford debate will not go away. I think we got a good quarterback who's in a rough situation, who came to a city where players come to die in their careers, where their careers come to die. Now it is up to this regime to see if they can turn this around and build around Jared Goff, because he's not doing it by himself. He's not going to come in here and do it by himself, not with what he has around him, not with this defense, not with this wide receiving core. We have a really, really good O-line in place. I love it. Running back situation looks like it's going to be really nice. So the run game should be there. But if the defense isn't there, you're going to be asking Jared Goff to wing the ball to the players that aren't very good. The Brashad Perrimans, the question marks like Quintez Cephas, who I do like, but he's a question mark. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a rookie who we don't really know what's going on. You got guys like Damian Ratley, Khalif Raymond, Tyrell Williams, who's had put up some good numbers when he was a Charger. But it's a lot of question marks, man. We have Hawkinson, but he will be double teamed, and he probably doesn't even deserve to be double teamed. Not yet in his career. He's still too young. Everybody thinks he's going to be the next Gronk too, and that's just not his. It's just not the case right now. I don't think. I think he's excellent, but that's a whole other video. So this debate's going to just keep going on and on for at least the next 2 years, unless Goff goes somewhere and Stafford goes somewhere. Then it can, the talk won't be. It'll just end. The talk will just end. It just won't be no more. But now that Stafford is a Ram and Jared Goff is a Detroit Lion, this talk's never going to end. It's going to keep going on and on and on. And if you want to know who I think is the better quarterback overall, I still think from a talent perspective that it's Matt Stafford, but it's not above all. It's not the end all be all. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't think the situation isn't as good with Jared Goff, but I'm okay with the Jared Goff. But the debate, it is a good debate. It's never really going to end. I'm happy that we got Jared Goff. I'm glad that we got a quarterback out of the situation. That's one thing that Brad Holmes was for sure not going to do. He was not going to leave anything on the table with a trade unless a quarterback was involved. That was the rumor, and we got a young quarterback in Jared Goff. But the debate will continue to live on. So that's the video, guys. I just wanted to get that off my chest and just talk about some quarterback play that's going on in LA, that's going on in Detroit. So this will be talked about again. This is going to be talked about all year. But camp's coming around the corner. We can talk more about that. But thanks for the video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe in the bottom right. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, get all my vids, and like and comment, and we can talk. Go Lions. Boom.